Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us for another Pure Resonance Audio video. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be talking about how to determine what tap settings your speaker should be at. So before we go into that, let's talk a little bit about what tap settings are. On a 70-volt speaker, they have a transformer that allows you to adjust what's called the tap. These tap settings, in short, determine how loud a speaker can get. The higher you tap it, the louder it's going to be. The lower you tap it, the softer it's going to be. Before we keep going about tap settings, I want to first address sensitivity. Every speaker has a sensitivity rating, which is a measure of sound pressure from a given wattage at a certain distance. So in the audio world, this is measured using 1 watt from a distance of 1 meter. So for instance, let's take this PD4 pendant speaker. At 1 watt, 1 meter, this PD4 produces 85 dB, or decibels. So let me write that on the board and we'll go back to that. Okay. So if you're not familiar with dB, let me give you some numbers just so you understand what that looks like. So at 30 dB, that's about a whispering voice. How I'm talking now is roughly 60 dB. When you crank up your lawnmower, that's about 90 dB. And if you've ever been to a concert where it's really loud and you can barely hear the person next to you, that's about 115 to 120 dB. So it's really, really loud. So you can see how the scales, the higher the dB, the louder it's going to be. So with that in mind, how do you determine what to tap your speakers at? Well, there's a few calculations that go into it. If you were to contact us, one of the biggest questions we ask is, how high are your ceilings? This is super important because it does play a part in determining what speaker is right for you and what the tap settings of that speaker should be. What kind of application we're dealing with also plays a part in that. You may have a dental clinic and you don't need loud music. Maybe you have a restaurant that gets pretty rowdy and you need it to be really loud in there. So that plays a role too. So the application, your ceiling height, the type of speaker you have, those all play an important role in determining the tap settings. So let's do a scenario with this PD4 speaker as an example. So we talked about at 1 watt, 1 meter, it produces 85 dB. Let's say you have a restaurant with open ceilings, beautiful open ceilings, and you want to put this pendant speaker in for music. For example's sake, say that the ceilings are roughly 20 feet high, but the hanging height is going to be roughly 15 feet high. So when you put that in meters, it's a little bit different. So for round number sakes, let's say that 3 feet is roughly 1 meter. So if you hang these speakers at 15 feet, that's roughly 5 meters. You also have to take into account the listening level of the individual that's in the space. So are those people going to be standing the majority of the time, or are they going to be sitting down and eating, having dinner? So in this scenario, it's a restaurant, so these people are going to be sitting down. Their listening level is going to be about, let's say, 3.5 feet off the floor, maybe taller if it's bar seating, etc. So for example's sake, let's say that from my listening level where I'm sitting down to the speaker is roughly 12 feet. So that means in order to produce the same dB from 1 watt, 1 meter, now we're 4 meters away. That means that my wattage has to multiply by 4 as well. So 4 watts, 4 meters gets me the same dB. So at that point, you could tap the speaker at 4 watts. The beauty of the PD4 and most of our other speakers is that they have a lot higher tap settings if you want it to be louder. For instance, this PD4 has a tap setting of 4, 8, and 16 watts, so you can see the potential for loudness there. If you have the capability and the amp to handle a higher tap setting, that's always recommended because it gives you the capability of turning it down, or maybe it gets rowdy at 5:30, 6 o'clock when the lunch crowd comes in or dinner crowd comes in and you need that speakers to produce a little bit better and louder music. That way it'll give you the ability to turn it up or down. So we've talked about the dB, how that plays a part in the tap settings, but think about this as well. You can use the tap settings as a form of volume control. So if you didn't want to have a volume control on the wall that people could go up to and turn and adjust. Maybe you don't want your employees to go up and adjust it all the time. You want it to be pretty constant and set. You can use the tap setting as a form of volume control. So let's take that same restaurant. Maybe I have the main seating area tapped at 16 watts. I want it to be a little louder in that area. That's fine, but maybe when you first check in and you go to the hostess stand to give them your name, you want to be able to hear the customer a little bit better, so you want to tap those speakers a little lower. That works as well, so maybe you tap them at 4 or 8 watts instead of 16. So you can see how that's a form of volume control if you want to do it that way. One thing to keep in mind when adjusting your tap settings, we're not going to go into a lot of detail, just make sure that the total wattage of all your speakers' tap settings do not exceed 80% of your amplifier's capability. For example, this right here is a RMA 120 watt amplifier. 80% of that is 96 watts. So your total tap settings of all your speakers need to be at 96 watts or less to give you ideal headroom for your unit, to make sure you're not damaging your equipment. And it's just always good to have headroom so that your speakers can perform their best. So if you have any questions today about what we went over, questions about tap settings, maybe you're looking for a system for your new facility and you need a design help, you don't even know where to begin, give us a call or shoot us an email. We also have a chat through our website. Reach out to us. We're here to help you. I know this stuff can be a little bit confusing if you're not familiar with it, so we're here to help. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.